Hello and welcome to another edition of the Midlands Saturday Sports Special with me, James Brackpool.
And filling in for Paul, me, Anne-Marie Beauchamp. Well, it's been a busy week in the world of sport, both locally and nationally. Later on, we'll be taking a look at local boxer Tommy Langford, who is fighting for the Intercontinental Middleweight title on the 4th of July.
But first, let's hear from ice hockey's very own Roman Abramovich. Myself and Anne-Marie went to the Telford Tigers and interviewed the owner, and he started off by talking about his early love for ice hockey, as well as his career in general.
You're a local lad, so let's start from the beginning. Tell us about growing up and being a fan.
Gosh, it's going back now. I mean, I started coming to the ice rink when it first opened. I remember coming here on the opening day, and I was young. I mean, let's go back to the early 80s, and I fell in love with hockey the first game I saw. It was just that kind of sport where I think hockey's that game where you either love it from the very first time you see it, that first minute, and you think, oh my gosh, this is awesome, it's fast, it was just a great sport to get involved in, because it's one of those sports where the fans can really get involved in it. It's not a passive sport at all. You're involved in every minute of it. And
Including the fights.
Yeah, including the fights. I mean, absolutely. And back then in the 80s, it was 10 times worse than it is now. Back then it was fights every 5 minutes. So I think, for me, it was one of those sports where it gave me something to do. And in Telford back then, there wasn't a lot to do. The ice rink was really the first thing that came along that gave us something to do as kids. So so I did. I spent an awful lot of time here, and I fell in love with the sport and got involved with the team as the stick boy, as a young lad, just helping out, just doing whatever I could. And then I was here when the team won the league the first time.
Was that 88, yeah?
It was awesome, yeah. It was a phenomenal experience to have. I mean, I was young, and the team were, they'd gone through some, rough start, I guess you could say. They'd had some challenges, and for them to win the league was a fantastic experience. And I think for me it was, I'll never forget that, of standing on the ice after that game with the players, and you could see the relief that they'd won the league, and they'd only been around for that long, a couple of years, and they'd won the league, and they were just over the moon. And I always remember the excitement in the changing room afterwards, and I remember thinking at the time, this has got to feel incredible for the owners and for the players. It just, because I'm just a stick boy. So imagine what it feels like for them. So it's an interesting thing for us to go back to this year and winning it, because I remember feeling the exact same thing.
So it's not changed for you then?
No, it was exactly the same.
I read somewhere that you used to bunk off school and kind of spend a lot of your time with the sticks and at the club and...
Never. No, I did, yeah, it was terrible.
Was it just, were you just addicted from the get-go? Was it?
I think part of it was, look, it was partly, I moved schools from, I was at Charlton School, moved from the Charlton School and went to Alton Park, and it was my 5th year. And so, I had a difficult transition because I was the kid that didn't really belong in either school at that point. I hadn't gone to the Alton Park school the whole time. And I think there were definitely a couple of days where I'd skive off and I'd come to the ice rink and I'd end up getting told off. The rink staff always made me laugh. I mean, it's funny now to have Rita, who's involved with the supporters club. She runs that, and she was a staff member at the rink, and she used to say, "Wayne Scholes, what are you doing here?" And I'd go, "Nothing." She'd go, "You should go back to school. Get back to school right now." And sometimes she'd force me off back to school.
Oh wow, and she's still here then?
She's still here, yeah. So it was great. She's still involved with the club, and so I mean, it wasn't like I did it every day, but occasionally, I definitely was not the best.
Because you've worked in the NBA as well. Is the sport a big part of your life in general?
Well, working with the NBA was interesting because that wasn't the plan. It happened because I was managing artists' record labels. So I had artists signed to Universal and various other labels, and we spent a lot of time touring around the world. It happened that I was in the USA with an artist. We had 2 there actually at the time, who were recording albums, and it just happened that one of them bumped into one of the NBA players there that played for the Jazz at the time, and it just happened that we got chatting, and he loved music and wanted to have a music career after his NBA career, and he'd been in the NBA for 16 years at that point. And it just ended up that I ended up managing him and ended up managing a couple of other projects in the NBA for various players, and so it was an interesting thing, because sport that wasn't my career plan. It just happened that that was the way it went, and part of it was just that it was management. And for me, whether it was managing an NBA player, whether it was managing musicians, really didn't make that much difference. You know, the management is management. My real sort of career plan had been based around more about the entertainment industry, which is how I ended up at Virgin. It was the entertainment industry, and that's where I was. So I ended up as Director of Strategic Marketing for North America for Virgin Entertainment. Had a blast, had a great time at Virgin. It's one of those companies that you know, once you've worked at Virgin, you feel very much like a part of the family. And so I had a great time working there. I worked in the LA office and covered North America, and had a fabulous team and a really, really great bunch of people to work with. And it was a fantastic experience for teaching. It was a great learning experience for me. It taught me an awful lot of things about marketing that I thought I already knew, and it re-taught me all of them. It was brilliant.
Well, it was great to interview Wayne there. He was a very charismatic man. James, obviously we know ice hockey doesn't get the coverage it deserves.
No, it doesn't. And we spoke to Andy from Coventry Blaze, didn't we?
We did
this
indeed.
week. And he mentioned the fact that, you know, ice hockey perhaps is underserved because there's no team in London, which is a fair point, don't you think? I mean, you look at all the a lot of the main football teams based in London,
and players always want to go to London as well.
Exactly, it's a city a lot of people want to live in, and you can't help but think if one team does go there, the sport's going to blow up.
Well, yeah, that's what he was getting at yesterday, wasn't he? And I think he was saying the good thing with ice hockey as well is that fans are kind of not just drawn to the top teams in the league; they'll watch every team, and they're kind of extremely passionate about the whole league itself, as opposed to just their own team as well.
He did raise the point as well that, you know, the cost of filming ice hockey can be quite substantial if you're going to do it properly. But I think that's what we're sort of trying to do here, we hope.
Fingers crossed.
Give some coverage for it. It's obviously great to hear from Wayne there, and, you know, he's sort of a man who used to, in your words, bunk off from school to go to the rink.
Yeah,
and
he
get
did.
down.
He was a stick boy, wasn't he, when he was 15, 16, he was telling us. But it's great to see someone that passionate, I think, in charge of their own club, as opposed to just, you know, someone coming in who just throws money at it. And
we'll be getting down to cover the Tigers as much as possible this season. Now, earlier on in the week, we went and spoke to the head of commercial at Birmingham City Football Club, Ian Dutton, and Ian spoke to us about the importance of having a successful commercial department in modern-day football. And commercially, I know a lot of fans might not necessarily appreciate all the hard work that you guys do, but it's important, isn't it, in the modern game now to have quite an efficient commercial team behind a successful football club?
Yeah, it certainly is. You know, there's commercialisation now for any sporting club, including football, is fantastic. You know, it is a must. You know, it's a massive revenue spin, which in turn obviously helps develop what's needed on the pitch and to take us up to where we want to be. So yeah, it is huge, especially now all the big broadcast rights have come through. It's massive.
And you mentioned you've been here 8 years. What have been your highlights during your time at the club?
God, it's hard to pick out really, but like I said before, I've enjoyed every minute of it, all the ups, all the downs. You know, I suppose one highlight for me would obviously be winning the League Cup against Arsenal. Sorry, James, I know that's your team, but it was. You know, I went to Wembley. We took 550 corporate clients to Wembley, and it was a magnificent day out. And then leading on from that, obviously we had a little trip into Europe. So games such as Bruges away, when we took 6,000 supporters to Bruges, was absolutely magnificent. So, but there has been so many highlights. You know, it's just working for the club and working for the people, and obviously dealing with the kind of corporates and sponsors and supporters that we deal with is fantastic.
And can you tell us a little bit about the commercial side's of biggest aims, biggest challenges, if you like? You know, how would you define a successful season commercially for Birmingham City?
Number one, hitting our targets. You know, that's always a defined success. But for me, it's about growing. Certainly in this particular league, in the Championship League, it's about growing our local connections. You know, the Birmingham business world on the whole is really important to this football club. You know, there are grassroots of corporate. You know, so we have to maintain a fantastic relationship with those people that support us and back us so much. So a really successful season for me is commercially is when those people that support us, those people that back us through thick and through thin, are talking positive about the club, you know, in a really positive light, whether that be through sponsorship, whether that be through a fantastic hospitality experience that they've had here at the football club, you know. So it's all about ensuring that we retain business, you know, and through a lot of network clubs that we hold here at Birmingham City Football Club, the Blues Network, maintaining different events regularly here at the football club, and maintaining that contact with those people is vitally important for us. So it's just about growing our business, growing our empire, growing our network, and taking it from there.
And Birmingham City are changing their principal sponsor for this season, aren't they? Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, before we go on to that, I suppose just to start, it's actually the club's 140th anniversary of Birmingham City Football Club moving into the new season. So it is a really, really important, big year for the football club, a great milestone, you know, and in turn we wanted a really, really good quality partner to partner with the football club in such a wonderful year. And then came along Easy Group. Easy Group have already been partners of the club for the past 4 years. 2 years ago they were actually principal shirt partners, and in between that they've been diamond partner here at the club, and they've now agreed to become principal partners once again for this magnificent 140-year anniversary moving into next season. So I can't thank Dominic O'Reilly, the group CEO, and everyone else at Easy Group enough on behalf of the club.
How important is it for Birmingham City to have a good relationship with their sponsors?
Hugely important. Like I say, Easy Group, they've been on the front of the shirt before, and I know it's a bit of a cheesy saying, but they're more than just a name on the front of the shirt. They do a hell of a lot more for us, you know, through a lot of their campaigns, community campaigns, CSR initiatives, engaging with our supporters, offering supporters in need those lucky chances to have those memorable experiences that changes their lives through a campaign called Easy Wishes. So that's been really, really engaging for us, and great positive PR for the football club as well, you know. So it's all about a two-way partnership, and like I say, we want someone that is more than just a name on the shirt. We want someone that's going to work with us, work through the challenges, and make it a success, and make this great football club a success twofold.
And you mentioned that this is the 140th anniversary of Birmingham City. How are the club marking it? Are there any special events going on, or?
Yeah, no, we have. We've marked it in several different ways, really. You may have noticed recently, just last week, we announced that we were changing the crest for the new season as a limited edition crest which marks the year. Earlier this season, we allowed supporters to put their names on the shirt, on a limited edition shirt, which is going to be released within mid-July. So basically, all of our first team playing shirts and all of our replica shirts will host around about 1,000 supporters' names on the shirts, which is going to be absolutely massive for them. But I suppose one of the biggest events that we've launched for the new season is we've actually got an anniversary dinner, which takes place on the 18th of July at the ICC Central Birmingham. We are expecting well over 1,000 supporters to attend the event. Easy Group, the club's new principal partner, will be headline partners and headline sponsors for this particular night. We have the likes of Trevor Francis, Bob Hatton, Bob Latchford, who actually haven't even been in the same room together since they played together in the 70s. We've got more recently the likes of Curtis Davis, Darren Carter, who scored the
So it was great to hear from Ian there. I almost think they've created such a successful beast in football now with their commercial departments. Do you perhaps think that football's tipped over the edge, that it's too commercialised these days?
You can argue the case for both, can't you? I mean, obviously a lot of modern day fans will say it's massively gone too commercialised, and you kind of see everywhere now with branding and sponsorships and all the rest of it. I mean, personally, I don't like the fact we're going to have the Emirates FA Cup from next season, which I think is just a big no-no.
I think a lot of fans aren't happy about that. I think a lot of fans aren't happy about the fact that essentially the commercialisation of football has brought a lot of money into the game, which, when you look at it at face value, is a good thing. But the money's not filtering down into the right places. And grassroots football, as
is now suffering,
as everyone knows, is really struggling. And you know, I've read an article in the Telegraph today that said, you know, commercialisation of football has, you know, destroyed the values that made it so attractive to investors in the first place.
Well, yeah, I think that's right. And I think the other issue, again, is the money that's getting thrown at the game is kind of ruining the fact that, you know, we won't see players stay at clubs now throughout their career. I mean, your Lampards, your Gerrards, it's kind of an old thing that's not going to be happening for long. But I think that's obviously because of the money.
Well, we certainly hope Ian has a successful season anyway. And
sure they
it was
will.
great to hear from Birmingham City.
Well, that's all for part one. Join us in part two, where we'll be talking more football and seeing what two very respected and esteemed journalists had to say about West Bromwich Albion. Welcome back. You're watching the Midlands Saturday special with me, Anne-Marie Beaujean.
And me, James Brackpool. Now, on Wednesday this week, BBC WM's Daz Hale and the Birmingham Mail's Bill Howell sat down with us on the Extra Time sofa, and we started off by talking about those pictures of Jack Grealish that emerged this week. Let's start off with, obviously, the big story this week. Jack Grealish has been photographed lying down in the street. He could have been having a kip. We don't know. Is it fair to, you know, see a young footballer like that? It's the end of the season. He's 19 years old. Is it fair to take pictures of the lad and criticise him, or should he expect to be setting a better example?
It's a bit of both, really. I mean, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, those cameras wouldn't have been around. So the same things went on. The same footballers did the same drinking. Although I don't remember any of them falling asleep in the middle of the street. It's the way of the world, unfortunately, and he's overstepped the line, and he's likely to get rebuked for it. He's got to apologise, in my eyes. It's not the way you should do things, but there is the other side of the coin. He's a young lad. He's out on holiday. It's pre-season, you know. Get over it.
Tim obviously mentioned earlier this season about there was that incident with him and the legal highs, and
Yeah.
I know it was from time, like, you know, from a couple of years ago, but
There's been the same at West Brom with Saido Berahino and the legal highs. You know, it's a balloon with illegal gas. You know, it's again not the way you should be doing things. It's certainly not setting a good example, but he's not breaking the law either.
Well, that's it. I mean, I remember Sherwood saying, you know, at the end of the day, I don't care whether that picture was from years ago. He's got to think about himself. He's got to think, like it or not, you're a role model now for this club.
Oh, so. Absolutely. Pre-season or not, holiday or not, you start to earn 20, 25, 30,000 pounds a week, and all sorts of responsibilities are thrown your way.
I think it's just a little bit... If they've got a game on Saturday, throw the book at him. But
fair enough.
As we've said, he's 19 years old, the season's finished, he's out on holiday with his mates, and that's the only, as Bill made the point there, is the only downside is the fact somebody took a photo of it. You know, he's a 19-year-old kid, and to me, clearly, once the picture comes into the public domain, he's going to have to apologise, the club are going to have to say all the right things, but he's letting off a bit of steam at the end of the season. Not really doing anyone any harm, is he? You see worse on Broad Street on a Friday. I've seen you out on Broad Street on a Friday night, James.
I don't know what you're talking about, Dad. I was going to say, and you boys obviously done a bit of partying back in the day as well when you were 19.
In the 70s, when you could get away with it. I don't know if my lad, who is 12, so just pretend that he was 19. If he'd done the same, I wouldn't be too happy with him, you know. I'd want to know why he's drinking this amount, you know.
And Jack, obviously, he tweeted that tweet afterwards to say, don't know what you're on about, I'm here.
Yeah, nice one. Not me, girl. I'm not sure he'll get away with that one. But Villa do need to have a word with him, and they need to say, come on, you know.
Well, I think they're keeping it internal, aren't they?
Yeah, and I think the other thing now is because he's had, like Berahino, there are comparisons there, so much positive publicity and a lot of expectancy now. In the build-up to the Cup final, the amount of Villa fans we were talking to saying, Jack Grealish is going to be fabulous, he's going to score the winning goal. He could be the next big idol at Villa Park because Villa fans are crying out for an idol. I know you've got Benteke, but this is a homegrown lad who's Villa through and through, and now he's going to need in all seriousness, I know his dad he's his agent, isn't he? He's going to need the proper guidance, and he needs to learn from this because, as Bill said, bottom line is now, whether you are a role model, whether you like it or not, once you become a professional footballer, you've got to grow up quickly, and there are two different paths they can go down now, and there are so many paths full of players who had bagfuls of potential at 18, 19, 20. who never fulfilled it.
Absolutely.
So it really is at a bit of a crossroads now. And I can say crossroads because you show that on this station.
Great plug there.
We certainly do. Moving on to what Villa do need over the summer. I know Tim Sherwood's desperately looking for a left-back. He's tried Alan Hutton there, Kieran Richardson. They've been linked with a young lad from Nice with a name that's far too hard for me to pronounce, so I'm not going to try. But do you think that's where it stops, a left-back? They need more, don't they, Aston Villa?
Crikey, they do, yeah. Absolutely they do.
Yeah.
They need half a team. The performance in the cup final just wasn't good enough. The performances towards the end of the season weren't good enough. There's all this, hoo-ha about how well Tim Sherwood has done since he's been there, but to finish fourth bottom, just survive, it's no good, particularly for Aston Villa. They're a top 6 club. They need serious investment. I mean, first of all, they need to get the takeover situation sorted. And then Tim Sherwood needs half a dozen players. He needs to keep Benteke. I'm asking a lot there. I'm probably asking for too much, to be honest.
But, if a club come in, like Liverpool, and they say, right, here's £32 million for Benteke, which is his reported buyout clause, do you take it based on his performance in that cup final? Because he wasn't great, was he?
No, but he had scored, was it 10 goals in 11 matches previous or something like that? Well, they'll have to take it if it's the buyout clause. I think the key is, well, first of all, it won't come as a surprise if anybody puts that bid in. So you'd like to think that Tim Sherwood, Kevin McDonald and all the staff are already got potential plan A, plan B, plan C replacements lined up. And obviously the market will kick in later on in the summer. It's like, at the moment it's all full of speculation. So if that happens, they need to obviously replace him. But I think the key is, isn't it, that whatever they get for him, the manager needs to be given a fair amount of that money so he can go and replace him. Don't just put it in the bank. Give it the manager and let him build his own team.
We also spoke about Daz and Bill's thoughts on West Bromwich Albion last season and what they needed to do over the summer transfer window.
What was the major thing that you saw change when Tony Pulis arrived?
Defence.
Yeah.
He found a right back, he found a left back, he found his right back from the middle of defence, and he found his left back from the left wing. And he converted them, Chris Brunt and Craig Dawson. He played 4 centre-backs, and sometimes 5, and they were resolute, and they defended for their lives. There was a team spirit there. They fought, and they deserve a real load of credit for what they did. It wasn't great. It was attritional, I think is a really good word. But, they came through with 3 or 4 games to go, which, you can't sing Tony Pulis' praises louder,
Couldn't beat the Villa though, could they?
Right, I did think that you might mention those 2 matches. Yeah.
It's a great week.
How did Alan Hutton escape that red card,
Oh, it was fine.
I think Saido
It was
Berahino's
fine.
still got his studs.
It was only
If he wants
yellow.
them back, he only needs to ask.
Reminds me a little bit of what Roy Hodgson did, actually. I mean, I think people draw
definitely.
comparisons with Megson, and that's fair as well. But when Roy Hodgson, I think they'd been 3-0 up the week before under...
West Ham.
Yeah, and they drew 3-3, and they couldn't keep a clean sheet. And again, I think just as with Pulis, it was getting them on the training ground, getting them drilled, and we're going to keep going through this and doing it and doing it and doing it, and we'll stop here all day if we have to until you learn it.
That's what he did.
And the amount of clean sheets that the Baggies got, I mean, it was pretty much
16 in the league, and he must have got 12 of them.
Yeah,
It's phenomenal.
Yeah. I mean, when you consider he lost his England goalkeeper halfway through that as well, and even more so when we all know that he'd got a list of players he desperately wanted to bring in towards the end of January, and he got McManaman and Fletcher. Obviously, he wanted Carlton Cole. There were others he wanted as well, so he had to make do and mend.
Yeah, I'm not sure he wanted Carlton Cole.
Well,
That might have been a blessing
Carlton
in
Cole was
disguise.
there.
I
wasn't
understand
he?
what you're saying. He
Yeah.
was there, absolutely.
Yeah.
What a journey that was.
Yeah, and but I imagine Odemwingie got a full tank of petrol somewhere that day as well. Otherwise, he didn't rock up
He
saying,
was
well,
off
you
all
know,
over the country.
got the 4-star.
Yeah.
The interesting thing now will be, because I think it's fair to say now that Albion have become an established Premier League club. I mean, it's 5 years now.
Yes, that's right. Going into a 6th, yeah.
And so I think what they need to do now, what everybody's waiting again, there's a question mark about potential takeover. It needs to be sorted sooner rather than later. I think with all of our clubs, the key or the ideal scenario is to get the majority of your squad in for pre-season training,
right.
because it's not only about bonding, gelling on the pitch, it's off the pitch. If you're bringing in 5 or 6 new there's different dynamics. You've got to get to know each other, not perhaps in the Jack Grealish way, quite like that anymore. And I think that's the key. But we know what he did at Crystal Palace, where he had a lot more fitter players, because that was another impact he had. He certainly made Albion a lot fitter in the second half of the season.
This is the best job he's done, doesn't he?
Yeah. And I think you mentioned that last 4 or 5 games for Albion, and everyone could see them. that was
They were
on
coming
the
closer
horizon.
and closer, weren't they?
Yeah, and in the end, actually, they picked up about 10 or 12 points from them.
4 of those 5 games was better than the entire season. So a win at Manchester United with a clean sheet.
Played well against Liverpool.
Beat
Liverpool.
Chelsea.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tremendous.
Gareth McCauley's signed a new contract and he's set a 50-point target for the Albion next year.
Yeah.
Is that realistic?
I think so.
Yeah.
Depending on what happens over the next month. He needs 6 players. He needs a proper right back, a proper left back, 2 strikers. He needs to keep Saido Berahino. Needs to get him signed up to a new contract, which is going to be difficult because the agent doesn't want him to sign a new contract. And he needs 2 wingers. I'm asking a lot there, again.
You're writing your Christmas list out already.
They need as big an overhaul as Aston Villa need. They really do.
I mean, he's been linked with Wayne Hennessy, isn't he?
Yeah.
So again, question marks. We don't know how long Ben Foster's going to be out for.
Matt
Obviously,
Phillips is another one.
Matt Phillips, who I really rate, actually. I remember seeing him a lot at Black.
So, James, we spoke about Villa, we spoke about West Brom. What about the 3 of the Midlands teams?
Well, Wolves target Yusuf Malumbu, who they were reportedly looking at it was on the verge of going to Norwich City, according to BBC Radio Norfolk. Wolves have been linked with Jamie Pattison from Forest. He started his career at Walsall to replace Bakary Sakho, who is, we all think, Leicester bound.
Yeah.
But we never quite know. Just quickly, still on Villa as well. Vyman's gone to Derby.
He has indeed.
Happy or sad?
I think it's a fair enough move for him.
Yeah.
I wish him a lot of luck. But
That's very nice of you. The Birmingham City Vice President believes Ernst & Young will free Blues from their beleaguered parent company. And he hopes that they'll move the club on from merely existing and one that Gary Rowett can hopefully push for promotion next season. He also believes Panos Pavlakis deserves a whole lot of credit, which I think
I think that's fair enough.
a fair comment. Wolves also released club captain Sam Ricketts.
I'm quite surprised
Which
about
was a
that.
bit of a surprise to myself, but there we have it. And it's all quiet at Walsall at the moment, but perhaps Dean Smith has got something brewing in the pot, we don't know.
Well, he's got a small budget, hasn't he?
So, yeah, but I'm sure he'll be making moves over the summer. So that's it for part 2. Join us in part 3, where we'll be hearing from Tommy Langford ahead of his title fight in Dublin on the 4th of July. And we'll be hearing from former Birmingham Mail boxing correspondent Ian Johnson and his thoughts on the Frankie Gavin fight. Stay with us.
Welcome back to the Midlands Saturday special. We're going to be talking boxing now, and earlier in the week, James and I went to Hall Green Boxing Gym to see local lad Tommy Langford in action. Tommy fights for the Intercontinental Middleweight title in Dublin on the 4th of July, and he spoke to Big Centre TV about his preparation for the fight, as well as the Midlands boxing scene in general.
Tommy, I'm going to start by asking you about how your training's gone for your first title fight. Do you feel fit?
Yeah, I'm flying really in the gym. I've been doing loads of rounds with big super middleweights, and I've got the 10 rounds in the bank easy, so I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm feeling really fresh and ready to go. And 2.5 weeks time now, and be getting my first title, so really excited.
I was going to ask you that. Do you feel more excited or more nervous?
Funnily enough, I don't really get that. I get a little bit nervous because you're human, you're going to, but it's more excitement really, what I feel for fights. Any fight that is, but this one's obviously even bigger because, get this title, that puts me in the top 10 in the WBO, so that's, then world title shots really on the cards, and obviously I've got to keep progressing. It's not an immediate thing, but it's in the pipeline then, and providing everything keeps going well and keeps going the way it is, then, it's there, so it's something that's a good stepping stone. It's what I need at the moment in my career.
Do boxers need a little bit of nerves, Tommy? Does it keep you on your toes?
Yeah, that's like, I don't really get nervous until the sort of day of the fight or the day before when you go into the venue for the weigh-in and stuff. Get a little bit of nerves. That gets you keeps you sharp and gets your mind ready. But I always sort of transition it into excitement really. If I get that feeling, I know I'm ready. So it's not something that puts me off ever. And
this is surely the biggest fight of your career to date, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, obviously my first title fight. So I've done supposed to have done a scheduled 10 rounder before. I managed to knock him out in 5, so that was brilliant. Been looking to do the same in this one. But yeah, so first title fight, it's a big deal to me. Like I said, puts me in, up there in the rankings, and so I can push on towards the top lads in the division, which is where I want to be, who I want to be mixing with and who I want to be fighting. And yeah, I'm just really excited for it. Can't wait.
I've done a bit of research on you, Tommy, and a lot of sort of online articles are describing you as a top prospect. Does that put any pressure on you, or do you relish having that type tag?
It used to a little bit when I first turned pro, and when I first had my first fights with Frank Warren and stuff like. It was a little bit of pressure because you knew you were supposed to beat who was in front of you. You knew, like, I'm supposed to do a job on this kid or whatever. So then there was a little bit of pressure. But now it's like, I don't know the other guy. He's got a good record himself. So, you know, he's going to be coming to win the title as well. So really, I don't find the pressures on me. I just want to go in there, and I know 100% if I perform the way I can and I do what I'm instructed by Tommy in the corner, I'm going to come away with the win, and I'll do it in style as well.
And you mentioned your opponent there. Obviously, that's had to change. You were fighting Ronnie Mittag, and obviously now you're fighting a totally different fighter. Has that affected your preparations?
Well, all the sparring I've had really was for Ronnie Mittag because he's the same size as me, tall fighter. So I've been sparring Callum Smith, who's an even taller super middleweight. So I've had a lot of practice with tall guys, and he had a very good record himself. He's a good back foot boxer. And now it's changed to this Mexican who's 5'8", and you know, so a lot shorter than me. And he's not really a come forward fighter though. I've watched a little bit of footage of him. He's still like a back foot fighter, so he's got a bit of an odd style. I think he's got the potential to make you look bad. Do you know what I mean? You can still beat him, but not. So I'm gonna have to put in a really good performance to you know, look impressive and everything. So it's not really. I would say Ronnie Mittag's a better boxer, so it's not really something that's played on my mind at all in terms of that. I'm still very confident I'll go in and I get the win, but the important thing is to look good doing it, so that's what I'll be aiming to do.
The middleweight division at the moment, it's cram-packed full of some top talent, you know, with Chris Eubank Jr. and the rest. Is that something that, you know, you're really excited to be a part of? You know, at such a great time for middleweight boxing.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, if you look at the domestic scene itself, you've got obviously up the top of the tree, Billy Joe Saunders, Chris Eubank Jr., and then you've got just behind them on the British scene, John Ryder, Nick Blackwell, and then obviously I'm sort of just below that at the moment. I mean, I feel very confident ability-wise. I can mix with those guys, but it's very important I learn the rounds, I get my championship experience and progress in the right way. I think, and when you take that's just domestically. I mean, obviously we've got a few on the world scene there with Andy Lee and Billy Joe and Eubank, but if you look at the world scene itself as well, if you get in and amongst that top 2 or 3 in the country, then you're in and amongst the top 5 or 6 in the world really. And so, you know, that's what I'll be looking to do in the coming coming years. So.
And as this is your first title fight, do you think that perhaps a lack of experience in that regard may be a disadvantage to you? I don't see it as a disadvantage. The only thing is the rounds. I've not gone over 6 rounds because I've obviously managed to stop people, and also like before my last fight I'd only been scheduled for 6 rounders. But I know 100% I can do the rounds. I'm flying, I've always had a big engine, always been able to put a lot of punches in the tank, and I've got a lot of reserves there, so it's not anything that I'm nervous about. I've been in sticky situations before in fights as an amateur, and as, you know, not so much as a pro, but as an amateur, and I've pulled out the bag and done what I had to do, so I know I've got it in me to, you know, whatever's put in front of me, I can beat it really, so I'm very confident. And Tommy, you'll know better than most, how healthy is the Midlands boxing scene at the moment?
Very good. Obviously we've got, you know, Frankie Gavin really at the top of the tree in the Midlands, and, you know, unfortunately just come up short to Kell Brook, but, you know, British and Commonwealth champion, and I expect to look at, you know, getting back to the world scene, or European at least. And then you've got myself and the likes of Sam Egginton and things, who's got the Commonwealth and WBC silver, and also Khalid Yafire and Gamal Yafire. You know, and then if you take that's the sort of Matchroom and Frank Warren scene, then you look just below that, you've got the white collar, you've got the small hall shows, and we've got a real hotbed of boxing really. I mean, just the other week I was over at the Wolverhampton Civic, and you had like a local clash between Jason Wellborn and Ryan Aston, top of the bill, and also you had Andrew Robinson fighting, and there was some cracking scraps. And so hopefully, with the more the Midlands and Birmingham gets on the TV coverage, the more these fights will come through, and it'll give everybody a bit more exposure in the Midlands and in Birmingham in particular.
And seeing that you were at that Wellborn and Aston fight quickly, I know there was some contention over the decision. What was your view on that?
Well, I think Aston started well. The argument is always in pro boxing, you know, Wellborn was on the front foot the whole time, and you're always going to edge. If there's close rounds or not a lot in it, you're always going to edge those rounds. Obviously, Aston got the knockdown as well, but then Wellborn came back very, very strong, and you know, he had such one-sided rounds towards the end. You could make an argument for 10-8 rounds in those rounds as well. So I think it was a very close fight, and I wouldn't argue with the decision. You know, I wouldn't say that I thought Aston won, because I was watching it as a mutual, do you know what I mean? So I thought it was a close fight, fair decision, and if they're not happy with it, have a rematch. You know, it was that good of a fight, that good of a tear-up. You know, the last round, the crowd was on its feet, and everything, whether you were a Wellborn fan or Aston fan. And so, you know, it's those sort of fights that is going to bring Midlands boxing to light, and you know, it sells a lot of tickets and things, so hopefully we can do that and keep progressing it on the bigger stage. And you know, I'd be game to mix in with lads domestically and you know, in the Midlands as well, titles on the line and things. If it's for the right occasion and the right thing, then you know, it's going to produce exciting fights. So it's all the more better for Midlands boxing, really.
And finally, you're expecting a big following in Dublin on 4th of July?
Well, I've got a good amount going over, and I could have done a lot more. I only got a certain amount of tickets, and so I've got a good amount coming over, obviously from the Midlands, but also from North Devon, where I'm originally from. They're all flying over, and then but Tom himself, he's from Dublin, so he's got some family and things that are over there who hopefully they'll drum up some local support. And you know, like I said before, if I put on a good display and a good performance, you know, and it excites the fans, then I'm going to pick up a lot of fans over in Ireland and in Dublin, and you know, it wouldn't rule out going back over there then for fights in the future. And obviously there's some good middleweights over in Ireland. Yeah. You know, Eamon O'Kane, Spike O'Sullivan, Andy Lee, they're all up there at the top of the tree. So get the win, keep progressing, and then I can be over there mixing with them as well. So it's a real big opportunity for me, this is, and I'm really excited to do it.
That's brilliant. Good luck, Tom.
Thanks very much. Cheers.
So it was great to see Tommy Langford there and speak to him. He's obviously feeling very confident ahead of his fight on the 4th of July. And we saw him sparring the Russian number 3, didn't we? And he was absolutely drenched in sweat, I think it's fair to say, but he was looking very sharp.
Yeah, he was. He was looking good shape, good speed, you know, looked ready for the fight, and I think he's going to do it. I've got a good feeling about it.
Yeah, he got good confidence. That's good to hear, Anne-Marie. Obviously, we were there with Tommy Chaney as well, who's Tommy Langford's trainer, and who was previously now Frankie Gavin's trainer.
Yep.
Tommy and Frankie had worked together for years, and it is sad to see them part, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's come at a weird time as well, because I think most boxing fans would have told you that Frankie was going into that Kell Brook fight and he wasn't going to win. I think a lot of you know, people weren't expecting that, but I think Frankie fans in particular were surprised at the fact that he didn't really give as much of a fight as what they thought he might have done. And obviously, knowing what Frankie can do, it wasn't kind of the best performance, and maybe that's got something to do with it, I don't know, but seems a bit of a strange timing for him.
Well, I saw, you know, bits of him in training, and, you know, we were speaking to Ian Johnson, and he very rightly made the point that Frankie looked very sharp in training, really very good, and there was real optimism in Frankie's camp that he was going to go to London and cause Kell Brook problems. But as you said, he didn't seem to step up to the occasion almost, and you wonder if that's the reason behind the split with Tommy Chaney, whether Frankie felt that Tommy, you know, might not have been getting him in the right mindset for such a big occasion. But it's good to hear that, you know, Frankie's still going on to fight.
Yeah, I mean, we went and spoke to Sam Eggington, didn't we, after the Resurrection card, and he called Frankie out. So I think that's something that will probably definitely be happening for Frankie. I don't know, but I've got a feeling that one will probably happen.
And of course, we wish Tommy Langford all the best.
former boxing correspondent for the Birmingham Mail, Ian Johnson, was at Hall Green with us, and Ian gave us his reaction to Frankie Gavin's title fight against Kell Brook a couple of weeks ago, as well as previewing Tommy Langford's title fight in Dublin.
Ian, we're at Hall Green Boxing Gym. First time I've managed to get hold of you after the Frankie Gavin-Kell Brook fight. What are your thoughts on that?
Wow. First of all, it was very disappointing in terms of Frankie's performance. From Kell Brook's point of view, perhaps that's the positive way to look at it, he was a lot better than I think the camp here actually estimated. They knew he was good, but his experience at world title level obviously told he's a lot stronger, and Frankie had gone against fighters not dissimilar and done quite well. So therefore, the feeling was that Frankie was not out of his depth, and he would do a good job. From my point of view, I thought that we saw him in that shopping centre in Birmingham doing a training session, and that session he was very, very positive, very powerful, quick punching, on his feet, beautifully balanced, etc., etc. And I thought, well, if he takes that into the ring with him against Kell Brook, then he's got a good chance. Might not win, but he's got a good chance. At the end of the day, I think he left that ability, that skill, that determination in the gym, and it didn't show. And it doesn't matter what title you're fighting for, if you are challenging for it, you've got to go out and win it. You've got to be the top man. You've got to be the positive one. You've got to be on the front step. And Frankie never got that far. He boxed very similar. I mean, I didn't see him win the world amateur title, but I just suspect that he boxed to his natural ability, but he doesn't move up a rank as far as the professionals are concerned. And that's something that I think he's got to do. He's got to find a way of moving up the rung on the ladder.
And obviously, I've just spoken to Tommy Langford ahead of his title fight on the 4th of July.
Yes.
Are you feeling confident for Tommy for that fight?
You can't not feel confident for Tommy because he's got the ability, he's got the height, he's got the strength, he's got the skill, and he's got the determination. And he's a mad keen trainer. The distance might be a little bit of a problem for him, but because he's never gone that far. But I'm quite sure that he's the sort of trainer who would quite easily go the distance, certainly. Against a much smaller Mexican, don't know. But wherever he fights, he's always punching down because he's always generally taller than anybody else. So we'll be used to that.
And are you going over to Dublin? Any plans to go to Tommy?
I wouldn't mind going to the Temple Bar, but I enjoy the Temple Bar. And whenever I've been to Dublin, it's always been an interesting experience, to say the least, and most enjoyable. So whether I get there or not, I'm not quite sure, but I'll certainly try.
Sticking with boxing, and our final excerpt for today comes from Thursday's edition of Extra Time, where we were joined by young prospects Luke Paddock and Scott Gibbons.
The preparation's going superb. Just can't wait to get in there and put a good performance on in front of Walsall Town Hall and my local fans. So, yeah, really buzzing.
Is the pressure getting to you a little bit, knowing it's your hometown?
No, but I can see where the pressure could possibly come from being a local lad. I just want to get in there and not get too just going over the top. I just want to put a nice, good performance on, really, for the local fans.
And your fight is September, but preparations underway for you?
Yeah, going well. Getting the week down. I'm back running. Back started sparring last night. So yeah, ready for the 12th really, in front of my own fans. So yeah, it's looking good.
How hard is that when you're sort of in between fights? You know, perhaps yo-yoing a tiny bit with your weight. Is it difficult to come back down?
It can be, depending how strict you are with yourself. But also, obviously, I believe a good boxer and a disciplined boxer should really look after the weight in between fights. That's why I think a lot of boxing, especially boxers, if you balloon up and come back down, it can affect you, it drains you, so it can take a toll on your performance. So I'll just try and stay in between, lowers or maintain as much as possible I can to my championship weight.
And Scott, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I agree with what you're saying with the dedication and stuff, but obviously with different people, their metabolism is different, so it's harder or easier to keep the weight on and off. But I think naturally, I'm a cruiserweight, but I strip down to light heavy to see how I get on, because I've always boxed at light heavy. But as I'm getting older, I'm only 22, so come 2-3 years time, I might mould into cruiser, but I'm about 6'1", so it'd be ideal to be a big light heavyweight, but if I go to cruiser, I'd be a small cruiserweight. So that's why I try and hold the weight off to get to light heavyweight.
When you said when you're resting, you get up to heavyweight.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Sometimes, like if I've got a big gap, I can just be eating casual, and without even knowing, and I'm looking in the mirror and thinking, oh, I don't look that much bigger, and then people are like, oh yeah, you've gone up. And it's like, all right, I'm too scared to get on the scales now. So I hit the diet really hard, and then I start going on the scales, and I monitor it then 3 or 4 times a week weigh in, and then just get on top of things. And then usually it's not a problem. It's never really been a problem. Never failed to make weight. I've never had to drain myself to make weight. So yeah, when I'm there, the diet's there. Early morning runs, training, working, so constantly burning calories. So the weight comes back down. But if I'm eating casually, then it does tend to float up quite easily.
And what's the hardest thing to give up? Is it alcohol, McDonald's?
Nah, with me, everyone's probably different. Fizzy pop, probably. Fizzy pop.
Like a can of Coke, do you?
Yeah,
or other drinks, whatever they make.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, fizzy pop.
No, I've never really drunk. Never been a big drinker. Mine's definitely sweets. Sweets and maybe the odd cheesecake.
Yeah, sweet tooth.
Not that big into crisp or biscuits or anything like that. But yeah, definitely a sweet tooth for sweets.
Let's take it back to the start for both of you. Luke, you first. How did you get into boxing? Were you very young when you started?
I started at the age of 6. It all started when my dad was talking to a doorman, saying that I should get into a gym because obviously playing up at home, hyperactive, and the doorman said you should just take him down to a local gym, and it was a boxing gym just to burn up energy. So I was quite familiar with my dad, and ever since I stepped foot in there, I fell in love with boxing, and it's gone from there really. Yeah.
And what about you, Scott?
Yeah, same again, but I was a bit later than Luke. I was about 12, played rugby, had trials for Gloucester Rugby, and I just thought, no, I'll try something different. Begged my dad to go to the gym.
That's it for this week. Thanks for watching. Anne-Marie, thank you for joining me this week. Paul will be back next week when he prizes himself away from Arsenal duty at the Emirates. But until then, have a good Saturday wherever you are and take care.